Hello friends, I'm FIDE instructor Atul Dahale and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, in the first round of the Tata Steel Masters 2021 tournament, the reigning world chess champion Magnus Carlsen scored a crushing victory against the rising star Alireza Firouza. Well, this is the first over-the-board tournament which is happening after long time, means the top level tournament I'm talking about, because in this pandemic time we were waiting for the tournaments to be held on the board, and this is the first tournament, first round. And who won the game? The world chess champion. Yes guys, in the previous tournament he was not at all in great form, but this time he is there to show that who is the boss. Okay, so guys, without further delay, I'll be getting started with the game, but I want to tell you some things about the game. The opening which happened, the Queen's Gambit declined, was played similarly by Gary Kasparov in past, and I remember the way he used to play. He used to sacrifice pawns after another, and he used to get his pieces on a great square, and then he used to crush his opponent. The same way Magnus Carlsen also has played in this game. So guys, let's start with this game. Magnus Carlsen was white in this game. Alireza was black. They started with d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, knight c3. This is the Queen's Gambit declined. Okay, because black has not captured the pawn on c4. That's why it is called as the declined variation. Knight bd7, bishop goes to g5 square, pinning this knight here, h6, bishop h4. And now there are several ways in which black can play, but he opted for the, you can say, the strongest variation, bishop e7. Then Magnus Carlsen very typically went for c takes d5. Now this game will be converted into a form of exchange variation. Okay, he captures with knight captures d5, then bishop on h4 is being hanging, like so. He plays bishop e7, queen e7, and now a very standard procedure in any game, in any opening, is to grab the center. So controlling the center is very important, and Magnus Carlsen plays e4 move. Well, if you just see this position from white's perspective, after knight c3, bc3, this is like the Grunfeld structure, you can say. But the only difference, or you can say the main difference in this position, is like there is no bishop on g7, there is no pawn on g6. But it's okay, it's a very hyper modern opening, and this is clearly a very interesting opening. Castles, bishop goes to d3 square, because see, at some point white will be very happy to exert some pressure on the king side. That's why he is putting his pieces on that side of the board. Okay, fair enough. Now he goes for c5, which is a very concrete move, I'll say, because this center is quite strong and black needs to hit in the center. So he plays c5, castles, very calm, c captures d4, c d4, and now the bishop on c8 must be brought in the game. That's why he plays b6. And now what to do? Well, if you are little bit well versed with this kind of structures, then you know this thing, that black is having two pawns on this side of the board, so and white is having only one pawn, so he needs to do the minority attack, because if he doesn't do anything and the game converts into the end game, then this d4 pawn will be a permanent weakness. And if black manages to get his all pieces on this side of the board, then black will be on top. So the most important thing is like just go for the a4 move, bishop b7, a5. He quickly gets rid of the isolated pawn which he was having. Now black is the one who is having the a7 pawn. Okay, now knight f6, rook e1. Centralizing your rook is always a good idea. Rook f d8, putting pressure on the d4 pawn. And now he plays queen a1. Obviously we want to support the pawn on d4. Well guys, as I mentioned in the start, that similar opening was played by Kasparov in the past, and the style was also similar. In that game which I am referring to, means he played multiple games. The main idea in this position is to play d5 at some point. Okay, you might be wondering why to play d5, because the pawn will be found free, but just wait a while, I am going to show you why it is like that. Okay, so he plays queen c7. Now there are some ideas related to knight g4 and putting some pressure here, so he plays h3. No need of getting any complications. Okay, so a6. Okay, now rook c5, attacking the queen. Queen is to move, queen west goes to f4 square, and now rook e5. A very nice and interesting idea, because now what white is threatening is to play g3 at some point. Obviously we need to control support the knight on f3, but after that you can see the queen will not be having any squares to move around, and the queen will be trapped. So black needs to act fast. This rook on e5 is the main piece which is blocking everything. So he went for knight d7, rook is being attacked, so rook goes to a5 square, knight f6. Okay, if he wants in this position he can always repeat the position, but Magnus Carlsen is a fighter, so he goes for d5. Now you will understand why d5 is necessary. After e captures d5, if you go for the normal e captures d5, then black will be very happy. But in this position, usually this d5 move is played so that when black captures on d5, this bishop will be blocked. See, after if the pawn is on d5 square, the bishop cannot really exert any pressure on this diagonal, correct? That's why white goes for e5 square. Now this e5 pawn is putting pressure on knight on f6. So once the knight moves from this square, there will be less number of pieces on that side of the board. Okay, another thing is that this bishop on b7 is not having any great future, because at some point we are going to put our piece on d4 square. Okay, maybe we can put our knight in front of the isolated pawn that is on the d5 square, and we know this thing that knight has the best square in front of the isolated pawn, especially when it is the queen pawn. Okay, so black goes for knight e4, he plays queen d4, centralizing the queen, a very important idea. Rook d c8. Now he is also trying to create his own chances, and look at this poor bishop on b7. It is not having any squares to move around. Isn't it that comfortable for you? I hope that it is not exactly comfortable position for black, and Alireza was trying to do something in this position. So Magnus Carlsen comes back, rook a1, because he needs to do something else on that, because on a5 the job has been done. Okay, so he goes for a5 move, and now rook a b1, putting pressure on this bishop on b7. Bishop goes to c6 square. Now here in this position he plays yet another amazing move. All white's pieces are playing quite comfortably. The bishop on d7 is very well placed, bishop queen is centrally placed, knight is there, rook, and this rook is also there. But now he feels like, okay, I have sacrificed one pawn and my opponent's pieces are not coordinated, so I need to do something in this position. This is called as the dynamic sense, like understanding what is needed in the position, and what he needs in the position is the activity of the pieces. That's why, to get more room for his pieces, he goes for e6 move, a brilliant move. Okay, because after f takes e6, the idea is to plunge in the knight in the e5 square, because now the centrally placed knight, it becomes like the octopus knight. We can see that all the squares are controlled by the knight, and this is a dream position for any knight, because there is no other pawn which can dislodge this knight from the e5 square. And what else do you need when your knight is there in the center of the board? The only thing is that black is having this queen there and this knight there who are defending, but wait for a while, that will also be removed from the board very soon. So he plays queen f6. Now this knight, as I mentioned, needs to be dislodged from the e4 square. He plays f3, knight goes to g5 square, and now what to do? Well, it's time to harass the bishop on c6, so he plays rook b6. Another thing is there, once you play your rook to b6, when the bishop goes to e8 square, the pawn on e6 is now a weakness, because whenever you move your knight from this square, both the rooks will be attacking on e6, and we need to be very careful. Okay, so after bishop e8, he plays queen e3, because as I said earlier, we want to put pressure on e6 pawn. Okay, so he goes for a4. Black is not understanding what exactly to do in this position, because his pieces are completely crammed and he has the only chance to push his pawn. So he goes for the a4, and now knight g4. Obviously after knight g4, the idea is to put pressure on e6, and with the next move maybe h4, or maybe I'm not going to tell you right now. Maybe white is trying to capture just on e6 with the rook and open up the position completely, because now this bishop will be having a great job here, and the knight on g4 means there is some kind of ideas like knight into h6, or maybe knight f6, and just completely opening up the position. Okay, so he goes for queen d8, and now what will you play? Yes, the idea which I already discussed is to capture on e6. Magnus Carlsen is not afraid of anything. He knows this thing that he needs to open up the position, because black's pieces are sleeping on the other side of the board, you can say queen side, and they are not that much useful in this position. So after rook into e6, knight into e6, queen e6 check, bishop f7. Now again you need to think about the position, what to do, how to continue. You have sacrificed your exchange, your opponent is trying to defend very hard, his bishop is there on f7 square, and if you give him little bit more chance, then the queen on d8 will also be coming in the game, and black will be safe. So you have to act fast. So how will you destroy black's position here on the king side? Well, Magnus Carlsen is very sharp when it comes to tactics, and he goes for knight into h6 check. Well, here there are two options. One is to obviously to capture the knight, which was happened in the game, and another we can already see that if the king f8 is played, then we can simply capture on f7 and is a check and mate, and if king h8 is played, then we can play knight into f7 and the queen will be gone because of the fork, and you cannot have any other option rather than just capturing the knight. And after capturing the knight, the move comes queen captures h6, and after queen h6, the idea is obviously there to play something. Okay, just to clarify the matter, I'll just show you. If a3 is played, then we have this good move check. He has only one move. Then bishop g6, a very standard idea. King g8, queen h7, king f8, and queen f7 is a check and mate. So guys, this is a way that you cannot really play any random move. So he plays after queen h6, he plays queen c7, and now queen h7 check, king f8, queen h8 check, bishop g8 is the only way because this rook is controlling on this file. So bishop g8, and now you play queen h6. A very nice idea because after queen to g7 square, which is the only move in this position, we are not going to capture the queen. Magnus Carlsen is going to play queen d6 check, queen e7, and queen e7 is a check and mate. So earlier only in this position, after queen h6, Alireza decided to resign the game, and this is a phenomenal game, guys. So I hope you enjoyed my brief introduction or brief analysis of this game, and we'll be meeting very soon, and I'll give you all the updates about this Tata Steel Masters tournament, which is happening for the first time in this year 2021. See you guys. Thank you for watching this video.